Again, it's PHLY Spirit Week here at the network. Tons of things happening over the course of the now 4 days, with today being Mystery Guest Day. If you don't know, Bree has this all set up for us. We'll find out here shortly who our mystery guest is.
Surprise, it's Devon Givens. He's working all 5 days this week.
Hello. Good to see everybody there. And our show, the PHLY 6's show, throughout the summer is brought to you by our good friends, Rothman Orthopedics. Rothman Orthopedics, of course, go check them out. If you need to get looked at, make sure you're all good, picking up some basketballs, playing some tennis, whatever it might be, you need to get checked out. Rothman Orthopedics is the place to go. Mystery Guest Day, it is not Derek Bodner, Kyle Newbeck. Kyle did say I am a mystery guest, but I'm here all week. And Bree is back with us, the president of basketball operations. Bree is hanging out with us as always. Good to see you folks in the chat as we are here on day 2 of Spirit Week. And we also have to talk about here shortly Ace Bailey. We have the head coach on Monday, and things start to spiral out of control.
Mock drafts are dropping left and right. We're hearing all kinds of crazy stuff out there. Although
a lot of crazy
some
stuff.
of it is stuff that we have heard inklings of for a while.
Maybe stuff that we've been trying to warn you about for the last 6 weeks,
well,
but not everybody wanted to
We don't want to
listen.
rub anyone's noses in it too much.
For yourself.
Anyway.
And we also will tell you about our draft party a little bit later, give you some details on that to let you know where to be on June 25th, that Wednesday night for round number 1. Will the Sixers be at number 3? Who will they be picking at number 3? Could they possibly trade down? We'll discuss all those things. That will be next Wednesday. We'll talk a little bit more about that. But as we await our mystery guests, Derek, we do have some things with Ace Bailey, man, jumping off where he has fallen now out of favor a little bit. Kyle, what was the terminology that was used in ESPN's mock
Do we
draft?
want to get into this?
I just want to know what the terminology was.
High level was that VJ was the leader in the clubhouse for 3.
There's a lot of sentiment from some of our trusted draft experts, will say, that Ace could be on the slide here a little bit, although on the slide is based on public expectations, and we, I think, have tried to establish what the private or league-wide expectations have been, and perhaps there's a little bit of a disconnect here. All right, let's have some fun with the audience here. Who do we think our surprise mystery guest is?
Allen Iverson. How about that?
I want some guesses in the chat before our esteemed guest comes on. I do think it's someone you guys will be excited to see.
We will all be excited.
Elton Brand dressed as LeBron James.
All right, that's pretty cool. That's pretty good. Will it be blurry?
That remains one of the funniest or weirdest
There's
things
still
that
a
happen.
contingent that I'm convinced really believes that was LeBron James.
Will it be blurry is the question. Will it be a blurry photo when he jumps on the screen to hang out with us here, Elton Brand, as the blurry guest?
Devon, who would be your number one, if you could pull from anywhere, right?
Not
Pop
Sixers,
culture.
not just Sixers related.
Yeah, just any guest could be on this show. Who's
Pop
the
culture,
Devon Givens?
anybody?
Who's the call being made to?
I still probably go Jay-Z.
You love Jay-Z. I remember sitting at the Sphere with you watching Dead & Co., which is, not really
Different
any of
side
our
of the
scenes, but
spectrum
it's definitely
from-
more my scene
But I
than
bet you he
Devon's
could do a
scene.
show with Dead & Co.
And Devon was like, Jay-Z at the Sphere.
That would be something. Yeah, and and you guys
Who's going
know,
to be there next month?
Backstreet
Boys.
That's not any of our speed either.
Guys, when we're at Vegas next couple of weeks, whatever it is, should we go see the Backstreet Boys at the
I don't
Sphere
think I can.
for year number 2? Let us know in the chat.
I don't think it's happening. Because the thing is, I convinced you guys to go. Like, hey, none of us are deadheads or anything, but this will be an experience. I don't think any one of this group of 3 is really pounding the table for, we got to get there to see Nick Carter and the rest of these jokers.
Not unless my cousin joins us again and she decides she wants to go. Then I wouldn't.
you
I
two
wouldn't
can
force
go
you guys
alone.
to go. Yeah, we'll just go. We'll just go on our own. So yeah, so we'll do that. But we'll see.
I mean,
the
look,
Aces do play a game on that Saturday night. So if the Sixers are not playing, maybe we go to see the Aces.
I mean, look, I'm excited for the whole Las Vegas experience. I'm excited for Summer League. I'm excited for all the opportunities of stuff we can do out there as a group. It's just not going to be Backstreet Boys. That's all.
All right, fair enough. All right, we got a couple here in the chat. We got Jared McCain here in the chat from Ryan Brooks saying that that's the mystery guest. We have
If somebody threw in a Sean Bradley,
Sean Bradley.
I would encourage you to look at the silhouette that we posted. Does not appear
Rodney
to be him.
Buford there in there. That's one. Slade says Kale. I'm not bringing Kale on this show, so New York people can be like, why is he on the Sixers show? So maybe, but maybe not. We'll see. Daryl Morey is a guest from Money Mar that we have. Randy Rubar says
the invitation's out there, buddy.
I tend to think Daryl will be making an appearance on this show in the let's say medium term future.
All right. We have Walker Kessler, Randy Rubart.
Listen, Vince would be absolutely thrilled if that were the case, but not quite yet.
That's crazy. Says Brian Pumper is the mystery guest.
What if it was the real Brian Pumper? Because I presume the our Brian Pumper is not the Brian Pumper.
You never know. You never know.
I don't know that for sure.
So those are some of the guests that I see. Mike Scott, the return of Steve
Money Mar
Pikel.
said Winona. Winona's going to be the special guest.
So those are a few. Nick Nurse, Kyle Kuzma. Look at that. Brett Brown.
Apparently, nobody looked at the silhouette that we
But
put
why
out
does the
there.
silhouette have to say who it is, though? Maybe it's
I'm just saying a lot of
maybe that's
people
just
being
a
mentioned
generic-
don't look like the silhouette.
But maybe that's a generic silhouette. You know, could be.
be.
Could be overall. All right, let's talk a little bit though while we wait. We
Shooting
got it.
lefty or righty.
Tony Roten. Look at that. That's a lefty.
That's a lefty.
Lefty.
That's a lefty right there.
Dylan Harper.
I would
lefty.
not conduct that interview, Nick. That would be these guys because I'm out. You know, yeah, I'm not. I don't want to talk to Tony Roten. I'm out. No thanks.
Devon has a deep, I don't want to say deep dislike because it's, I don't
He
know. if
drove
you have-
Basketball
crazy.
dislike.
A
Yeah.
basketball dislike. Yeah.
Basketball. And I remember I had a guest on from Memphis, media member at that time, and the media member had pointed out when he was here with the Sixers coming to Philadelphia. It's like, yeah, that guy thought he was better than Mike Conley.
Well,
And they had to get him out of there.
I've
I was
mentioned
like,
I've
wow.
mentioned this story before, but I was up at Sloan and I ran into John Hollinger in the hallway of Sloan, and John was at that point working for Memphis.
Yeah.
And we had never met. We'd followed each other on Twitter, but never met. He just walked up to me, grabbed me by the shoulder, asked me how I was liking Tony Roten now, cackled and walked away. No introduction, no, hey, I'm John Hollinger, I've read your work, none of that. Just cackling, laughing about Tony Roten and walking away.
Exactly. So, yeah, I'm out on the Tony Roten. But that would be an interesting guest to get him to come on the show and to do that. All right. Look, while we wait, we do need to talk about.
The second we start talking about Ace Bailey, the
I
guest
know.
is going to join the show.
I
So
know.
I've just been trying to push that off into the distance.
We've already gone 9 minutes, and so it just maybe
Bree just sat up, snapped to attention. What's going on?
So let's get into it then,
Okay.
Kyle. Let's get into it. Just to lay it out at least of what ESPN said. We'll talk about Bleacher Report and what Jonathan Wasserman also said about he also dropped, and he has been an Ace Bailey guy as well for the Sixers at 3. Both of them have dropped them in their mock drafts, but ESPN's is the one that really stood out from the wording of laying it out why the Sixers are no longer his choice for Ace Bailey at 3.
So Jonathan Gavoni has been probably the most consistent on Ace Bailey to the Sixers at 3.
And still somebody who has Ace Bailey ranked high, by the way. He
Yes.
has very recently, within the last couple of days, mentioned he still has him third on his big board. So this isn't like someone who is against Ace Bailey. He's just telling you what he's hearing across the league.
So within today's newest mock from Jonathan, he has Edgecombe at 3 and says Edgecombe appears to be the, quote, leader in the clubhouse for the pick, and also adds, quote, with Bailey losing momentum after refusing to visit, initially unsatisfied with his search for a proven pathway to development. Goes on to say, as we've told you guys, Ace will be in for a workout this week, that's scheduled for end of this week.
You were right, because now our mystery guest is here.
What'd I tell you? I knew what happened.
Well, let's get to on Mystery Guest Day here on the PHLY Sixers podcast. Bree, who do you have for us for Mystery Guest Day? Let's see. Justin Edwards
Look
from
who
the
it
Philadelphia
is.
76ers joining us here on the show. Justin, thanks for checking in with us, man.
Thank you for having me.
We got. Can you hear us?
Think you
Yeah, I
can
can
hear
hear you. I can
All
hear
right,
me.
now we got you.
Perfect.
Now
There we
got
go.
you. First of all, I want to ask you is, Now we can add not just, Sixers player, Sixers wing, but also now head coach at the Roots Picnic Celebrity Game. I saw Justin Edwards there.
I can't really hear.
And
Hold on right quick.
oh, no, now you can't hear us. All right, some people guessed it and got it right. And can you hear us now?
Yeah, it's better now. Yeah, I can
All
hear
right,
you guys.
cool. So
Perfect.
after I gave you the great introduction about the player, Justin Edwards, I wanted to ask you about your coaching debut at the Roots Picnic, man, where I saw you sitting there saying, you know what? Just sub yourselves in. What kind of coaching strategy did you have there?
So what it was, right? Gilly, Cooper DeZine, and the baby, they didn't want to come out the game. So I could only sub in 2 people. So everybody was on the bench like, when am I going to get in? I'm like, hey, you know what? Just save me the trouble. Just sub yourself in when you feel like you want to get in the game, right?
That's a lot of egos to manage. Did that give you any perspective on what it's like being an NBA coach?
Yeah, I said that. I said, yeah, I'm going to just stick to playing basketball,
Absolutely. Well, I hope you had a good time there, man. It's good. Thanks again for joining us. How's your summer been going after year 1 in the books, man? You get the standard contract. You play, 44 games for the squad, averaging 10 points. You close out the season really well. How's your summer been? What has the summer been like? What have you been working on? We've seen you working with Tyrese Maxey in Texas. What's been going on?
Summer's been good for me. I've just been trying to work on all the stuff that the coaches wanted me to work on to get better, to contribute to the season coming up. So, I've just been trying to focus on changing my body and all the little stuff like that.
In terms of changing your body, Justin, is that just simply, putting on more muscle? Is there any kind of
putting on more muscle?
Yeah, like is there any new workout routines you've added, new diet, anything like that you can give us some insight on?
No, just been like lifting every day, because during the season you don't really get to lift as much. So, I'm just taking advantage of the opportunity right now, just trying to get as strong as I can.
So looking forward to next season, if you had a short list of individual goals for next year, what do you think is, at the top of the list you're looking to do next year?
For me, individually?
Yeah, just for you. Obviously, as a team, you want to win.
Yeah, I was about to say that's number 1, and number 2 is just to make rising stars and just try to add on to what I did last year. So I feel like I should have made rising stars this year, or the rookie team this year, but things happen. So that's one of the goals that's motivating me and to go next year.
You've obviously had a bit of a roller coaster over the last couple of years, from a very highly ranked recruit to, maybe a little bit of a disappointing season at Kentucky, to undrafted, to now establishing yourself. I think you're in the top 10 and scoring 1 rookies, standard NBA contract, all that. I guess what would you have learned from that, and how can that help make you better going forward?
First, I don't think my season at Kentucky was disappointing. I just ain't live up to the expectations of being the number 1 projected pick in the draft. So, I just ain't live up to that. But I feel like I had a solid year at Kentucky. It just wasn't my best, to be honest. But what was the other part of the question you said?
What do you think you can take from that, and how can you then use that experience to build going forward?
But the way I've been able to use that experience is just going through all the adversity I went through in college. I feel like that helped me out this year, going undrafted and then starting off the season not playing, getting sent down to the G League. So, I just took all that as like motivation and just stayed positive and was just trying to control my controllables, really.
Justin, was there a specific moment or game this year where, whether it was somebody you were guarding, someone you made a shot over, drove past, that you thought to yourself, like, all right, I'm in the league now. Like, I can hang with these guys and I can, keep building on this?
I'd probably say my first start. Like, that's when I felt like, my first start was on TV against the Lakers. And I was a little nervous at first. But, after the game, I told Tyrese and those guys that I was going to be better, because I felt like, I don't know how to describe it, really.
So looking back at everything that Derek asked you about the draft and landing where you did, you mentioned the undrafted part. And oftentimes when things go that way, you look at the undrafted piece where you get to choose where you want to go, where you want to land, and that's the best fit for you. And seemingly it worked out for you in this way. So reflecting back on it and looking at where you are right now, the fit that you have with the Philadelphia 76ers, getting the standard, being in the top 10 in scoring, despite the disappointment of not being drafted, and you even, as you pointed out, feel like you should have made the all-rookie team, one of the all-rookie teams, feel like you landed in the perfect spot for you to kick off your NBA career.
Yes. Really came down to the decision, like, after the draft was over. I talked to my agents and stuff, and they were telling me the teams that were, like, interested in me, and I chose the Sixers because I just felt like it was close to home and I'll be able to get an opportunity. That's what they was telling me. Then I got guys like Reese and all those guys that went to Kentucky. So, you know, it was I feel like it was a perfect fit for me. And then, like, what did you say after that?
It was just more of that you made the right decision, you know, to start off your career of the place to land.
Yeah, and, like, when I got here, you know, they were really big on trying to get me back to myself. You know, they were trying to get me back out of my shell that I was in when I first got here, and they've been doing a really good job since I've been here.
And being in that shell, getting out of that shell, as you said, that last stretch of the season that you did, in fact, have, and scoring the way you did, as Kyle pointed out, being comfortable out there and learning the NBA game. How did that last stretch feel for you as a player, and already feeling like, you know I can play, but getting 25 to 30 minutes, being out there consistently, starting those games, and knowing that you can play to help you go in the offseason for all the things that you're working on?
It felt good, really. You know, I was able to showcase that I belonged in the NBA, and, you know, and I took advantage of the opportunity, really. That's all I can really say about that.
Justin, now that you've actually gone through the draft process where you're doing workouts, interviews, all that stuff, and you see the rumors fly everywhere, what's it been like watching how it's playing out for the Sixers now, where they have a top 3 pick, and there's just every single day it's a new story and a new, hey, they could be drafting this guy, they could be doing, like, what has that been like as a member of the team to go through that?
It's just been crazy, really. You know, I'm gonna let them handle that stuff, so I just, you know, just trying to do what I can do in the basketball court, but let them handle all that stuff. But
do you have any guys that you liked watching, or like, man, I think that guy's gonna be really good? Is there anybody you followed closely this year?
I got a couple homies that's in this year's draft, so, you know, I'm happy to see where they land at.
This could be anything from something that happened on the court to maybe dealing with travel or really anything. But what surprised you the most about being in the NBA? Like, what took you the most off guard?
Most off guard? The practice. I didn't know practice was like, the practice is only like an hour and a half. I never knew that. I've always been practicing like 2-3 hours my whole life. So when I got here, I thought practice was gonna be harder, but it's really not. That's what took me by surprise.
Especially, I feel like once you get deeper into the season, like, it can ease up quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one more for me, just to see that you already mentioned your relationship with Tyrese Maxey, the rookies. You know, we saw how you all bonded at training camp when we were out there together. But also seeing Joel Embiid, despite the fact that he couldn't play as much, seemed like he always brought your name up. He was at your jersey retirement at Emotep. And so what's that relationship been like? How satisfying is that for you to have, in this case, you know, the 2 main guys like that, including Paul George, you know, have your back?
It means a lot, really, you know, to have a guy like Joel, who's one of the main guys on the team, to be in my corner supporting me. You know, me and him got closer towards the year went on, because I was always asking him questions about what he sees in the game. You know, I always try to ask all the guys questions. So the fact that he was able to, you know, adjust to me when I got here and was able to welcome me with open arms meant a lot to me.
Last one, Justin. Who you guys taking? You can tell us. We're not going to tell anybody, I promise. Who you taking at 3?
Hopefully the Kentucky boys get it done.
All right, Justin Edwards, Philadelphia 76ers. Fantastic rookie campaign, and got the standard contract. We look forward to seeing what's in store for you in year number 2. Maybe we'll see you at the Danny Rumpf Classic in a couple of weeks. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. Maybe we'll see you there. I don't know, but it's good to catch up with you, man. Thanks for stopping by, hanging out with us as our mystery guest.
Thank you, Justin.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate you.
Thanks, man. Justin Edwards from the 76ers joining us here as a mystery guest. Great job, Bree. Appreciate that one. Here on the PHLY 6.
I thought I'd try it, you know? Just,
it's just, I heard the same thing you did. Kobe at a 35.
Exactly, right. Get that shooter to come in here in the second round at 35. All right, we take a pause. We come back, and we'll pick up where we left off before Justin joined us, where Kyle was laying out the ESPN and Jonathan Givony.
I told you it was going to happen.
Yes, you did.
I knew it.
So we'll restart that on the other side right here on the PHLY Sixers podcast. Folks, it was a big game last night, and OKC moved ahead of Indiana in that game. And if you had Jay Will going off for 40, and having a career game, a statement game in that one, I'm sure you placed a bet at Bet365. If you did not, I hope you did, and I hope you should going forward, because we have a new promo that has dropped exclusively for the finals that offers customers the chance to win a jackpot of up to $100,000 in bonus bets, $100,000 in bonus bets with the first play fortune. To enter for a chance to win a share of $100,000 jackpot in bonus bets, you must place a 3-leg same-game parlay. Where those 3 legs are, you player to score the first basket, player to get the first assist, and first rebound. Only bets consisting of those exact 3 legs will be eligible. Log in to place your bet or sign up by using code PHLY365. Deposit $10 and place your 3-leg same-game parlay bet with a minimum of $1. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary. At Bet365, must be 21 plus and physically located in Pennsylvania. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Terms and conditions apply.
And folks, summer is here, which means the kids are out and about, hanging with friends, maybe even picking up a summer job. It's a perfect time to set them up with something that teaches real-world money skills and gives them a little bit of freedom. The Greenlight debit card and money app. If you're a TrueMark Financial member, you can get a free Greenlight account for your kids or teens. It's a simple way for them to manage their own money, whether it's from a job, allowance, or birthday cash. They'll get their own debit card, can get savings goals, track spending, and learn how to budget, all while you stay in a loop from your phone. You're still in control, but they get to learn how money really works in everyday life. So before the summer rush kicks in, this is a great way to help your kids build smart money habits that'll stick with them long after the season's over. Head over to TrueMark.com/Greenlight to get all the details and sign up today. Don't miss the chance to set your kids up for financial success.
Welcome back to the PHLY Sixers podcast here on Spirit Week. Our show again presented by the great people from Rothman Orthopedics. And before we get Kyle's breakdown and get Derek's thoughts on what Jonathan Givony has to say, as part of Spirit Week, everybody, while we normally do our super chats, we know we all ask for that. This week, we're doing something a little bit different. We're teaming up with Big Brothers, Big Sisters of America, an incredible group creating life-changing mentorships for kids across the country. Here at ALLCITY and PHLY, we set a goal of $10,000 for our network, but we love to smash right through that during the week, and we can do that with your help. You can donate using the link in the video or description, and if you want to make an even bigger impact, you can also sign up to become a big by visiting bbbs.org/AllCity. Again, that's bbbs.org/AllCity. Let's do something meaningful together this week. All right, so super chats, don't worry about them. This week, help us out here with the Big Brothers, Big Sisters.
Hear that,
We
Pumper?
really appreciate that B pump. Throw all those funds in there for a good cause.
All right. So preamble out of the way. Jonathan Givony at ESPN, big Ace supporter, and has mocked him to the Sixers constantly, now saying VJ is the leader in the clubhouse. Additional intel from Givony. Quote, feedback from Ace's interviews at the draft combine in Chicago was not all that positive, with some teams expressing concern about his lack of preparation and focus. Executives say Bailey has been polarizing because of questions about his feel for the game and lack of polish, creating a wider draft range than initially anticipated. So then I'll slide down. He eventually mocks Ace to Washington at 6. And here's where Givony goes even further. So this is Jonathan Givony at ESPN. Quote, Bailey's pre-draft workout strategy has perplexed some observers as he has yet to conduct a single known workout to date, having declined invitations from several teams within his range. Sources say Bailey's camp has informed interested teams they believe he's a top 3 player in the draft, but also that he seeks a clear pathway to stardom perhaps feeling comfortable that a team will trade up to get him at numbers 3 and 4 should he dropped. So the big takeaway from all that to me is not that Ace could slide. It's not that he's polarizing, right? Like Derek and I, primarily because we were on the skeptic corner through most of this process, have said over and over again, like there is a pretty big divide between the people who believe in Ace, who view him as a top 3, maybe even top 2 talent in the class, and the evaluators, and there are many who say, I don't want this kid with a top 5 pick for whether it's play style, whether it's combination of play style and how he views himself, right? And when we've pushed back on Ace, it's not that he's not talented. It's not that he's not a good kid or a hard worker. It's that if you're drafting him and you're saying as the Sixers, you're like, well, I don't care that he can't do this, this, and this because we're going to ask him to do this. And then he is effectively telling teams or his agent or people around him are saying he wants to go somewhere to be a star and he's not going to buy into, scaling up from being maybe a starter or maybe a 6 man and like adding on from there. That makes it a lot harder to make the argument like, okay, you can bring this kid along like a Tatum, like a Kawhi Leonard, like a Paul George, like some of these guys that he's being compared to. The message that he is sending and his representation is sending is you treat him like a star from day one or he doesn't want to be there. And that's a dangerous game to play, right? Like there are definitely high level guys who have done this before. There are some very like inner circle Hall of Famer type guys who have tried to drive themselves towards certain destinations. But that's a big bet to make on yourself in this process when coming into it, there were already questions about, who is this kid ultimately at the next level and what can we as an organization get out of him, bring out of him. And so it continues to be Ace is as polarizing as any player in this class.
And it really is. And look, there will be no Kyle Neubeck and Derek Bodner victory tour. I'm not going to try to
No, because they still might take him at 3. None of this means that they won't draft him.
Right. My point is, like, whatever Gavoni or Wasserman said here doesn't prove that he will fall, doesn't prove that he won't improve in the future. But it does sort of validate a lot of the concerns Kyle and I expressed, a month and a half ago. And it's just like sometimes when we sit here and we express likes and dislikes, what we're excited about, what we're concerned about, my only request is maybe just take a step back. Don't be like, these guys have an agenda or these guys don't know about basketball. Just take in what we're saying, weigh that however you want, but like we're just sitting here trying to talk about what we see on the basketball court. And it is pretty much everything we've said about he's not a slam dunk at 3. There are concerns about his decision-making. There are concerns about his shot selection. There are concerns about his ability to get to the rim. That's sort of like everyone has sort of come around that. And now I don't think there's any major draft person who has him at 3 right now. Like pretty much like Vicini just had a mock or a big board where he had him at 6. Gavoni just had a mock draft where he put him at 7. And these are the 2 most plugged in people externally facing draft analysts.
And let me add on to that while you say that. Jonathan Wasserman, also one of the people we cite on the draft today, also now he has been a consistent ace at 3, ace at 3, right. Ace at 3. He now has ace at 6 to Washington. Jake Fisher did some more reporting today. He's been on top of a lot of stuff, including was the first person reporting the VJ Edgecombe workout and Tyrese Maxey coming in, all that. He said in his reporting at the Stein line today, VJ is the current favorite at 3, right, with the caveat that could change, and also push that Washington is a team to look at in terms of maybe trading up. So all I'm saying and all we have been saying is that this is the stuff we have heard on the inside for a month and a half, 2 months. And that this idea that Ace is in a tier by himself at 3 or even at 2, there are certainly people who believe that, but there are a lot more people who look at him and look at this class and say 3 to 6 or 3 to 7 or 3 to 8, depending on how you value the Fears, the Malawatches, some of these other guys. It is absolutely not set in stone. And I would reiterate something we said around when he did the combine interviews, and those were very polarizing. Like Devon loved the confidence when we were talking about it. And I understand that part of it for sure.
You know who else was confident? Tony Roten was confident.
Well, I'm not doing that.
I'm just trying to trigger Devon. That's all I'm doing. Calm down.
What we said and what was impressed upon to me, which I think is more fair than saying, oh, you know, screw this kid, he's stupid, whatever. The problem there is not Ace, it's his representation and the people around him not understanding, I think, or not having proper grasp of, here's what the league thinks about you. Here's what you need to accomplish between the end of your season and, you know, June 25th if you want to go as high as possible in the draft. If you want to make yourself as Ace Bailey as appealing as you can,
it's his job
you
interview.
needed to answer. Exactly. It's a job interview. So he needed to answer some of these questions. And I think what has happened is teams now have even more questions, or they haven't had those questions answered. So if you guys are seeing this happen in public with the mocks, with the reporting, it's not that this was pulled out of thin air. It's that there were things hanging out there for him that he could have addressed, and perhaps he and his representation should have addressed, and it just hasn't happened yet. That doesn't mean it can't happen. Maybe Ace Bailey comes into Philadelphia, or Camden, I guess, at the practice facility, meets with Daryl Morey, meets with ownership. Maybe Paul George is in there because he obviously we know his thoughts on Ace. And maybe Ace sits there and says, like, look, I'm ready to come in and work. I'm ready to come in and be XYZ. And at that point, again, it could swing back. It could be Ace is the clear favorite at number 3, and we get intel from that. All we can do is tell you what information is out there right now. And what's out there right now is that there are a lot of unanswered questions for this kid.
A lot of unanswered ones, man. And to Kyle's point, there's still a week where we're 8 days away now. Tomorrow will be 7 days away, a week away from the start of the NBA draft. And things change. And we have been talking about this, obviously, since the lottery happened, where I was saying Ace right away. You know, the guys may have been in a different direction, but we are now talking about a full month since then of the combine, individual interviews that happen at those times, players going into their respective these respective cities to work out for these players. And yes, you know, you get closer and the organizations start to change things, and they try to put together these meetings, and things change when those things actually happen. So when you do start to see stuff coming from Gavoni and even Wasserman after what Derek and Kyle have been saying over the past month, yeah, these guys have had an opportunity to really speak and do their due diligence of what they want to do when it comes to making the pick. That's really important for them, not just at 3, but even the teams thereafter, 4, 5, and 6. Now, we don't know about some of the other teams, which we'll talk about a little bit later, where we've heard some buzz about other teams, maybe like in Ace Bailey. And we'll talk about that, how that maybe fits the Sixers and at number 3, but it's not nothing, everybody. And yes, I know Pump is in there and some of the other Ace people, and I've been on the Ace side with you, but it's not nothing when you do hear from these people out there nationally, hear from Kyle and Derek, and just your own intel that you get, and just reading between the lines of how these organizations and these executives and the scouts feel about Ace Bailey at this spot.
And I would just add this, and there's a big reason we bring up Jonathan Gavoni on this show, or several big reasons, right? One, he's someone who's very plugged in and whose opinion is valued by all of us on this show. But 2, like, there are a lot of people who are on the Ace side who have pointed to him throughout this process of okay, Gavoni has him at 3. He's been locked in at 3. Like, I trust him more than I trust you guys. And that's fine, right? Jonathan Gavoni has earned the trust as a reporter and a draft evaluator, right? You can't then, after a month of doing that, turn around and when he says something you don't like, be like, well, he doesn't know what he's talking about either, right? That's how you fall into these logical traps where you're just like, everybody who says what I don't agree with is just wrong, right? I respect Jonathan Gavoni. I have been on a different island than him in terms of ranking the prospects, but in terms of what he's saying about, hey, here's what I've heard from this team, or here's what I hear about someone's work ethic or somebody's interview or all that. Like, if you were coming to us and trying to spite Derek and I for weeks upon weeks because other people were saying what you wanted to hear, don't now come and turn and tuck tail and be like, Jonathan Gavoni's a liar. He doesn't know what he's talking. It's like, that's nonsense, man. Like, Be honest with yourself.
Yep.
You can still like Ace Bailey. You can still think he's the pick at 3. Don't bring that kind of garbage in here.
All right, let's take a quick pause here because Bree just told us we have another mystery guest. Working overtime, Bree is. And we go and see who this next mystery guest is. Bree, what do we have here? Who do we have stepping in?
Let's give him a second.
All right, let's give him a second. All right, let's give him a second. We'll stay in here. We won't take a pause. We won't take a break. I was going to take a quick break and come back. But I will tell you that we do, in fact, have, again, our draft show. It's coming up. We can now tell everybody about our draft show, right, Derek, where we're going to be at the hanging out with all of you on draft night, and we can't wait to do it. It's going to be a fun time as we hang out with you on draft night, and we're going to be around maybe a little bit around some pups. And that's going to be at the Boozy Mutt, 2639 Poplar Street from 7 to 11. That's on Wednesday, June 25th, 7 to 11, presented by Rothman Orthopedics and TrueMark Financial. Oh, look at that. Look at that. We got two companies backing us for draft party night, and that will be from 7 to 11 next Wednesday for the first round at the Boozy Mutt, hanging out there and getting ready to talk about, I don't know what player. Well, we're going to talk about all of them, but we're going to talk about one player in particular for the Philadelphia 76ers next Wednesday night. So if you're already a diehard member, make sure you go to our website, go to the events page, and jump on in there, sign up to hang out with us so you can RSVP and kick it with us on draft nights. We can have a great time. I already got one DM saying, I already got my ticket. I'll see you guys there. And I was happy to see that he was going to be joining us again. He was there last year, and he's going to join us again.
Now, by DM, I assume you don't mean Discord because you wouldn't have seen it.
DM. Yeah, that was on Twitter.
Well, they have messages on.
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't know that. I'm not in there.
Doesn't shock me.
Yeah, but thank you. Well, we'll see you for draft night. Hopefully we see you all going to be there on Wednesday night to hang out with us. So we'll do that. And it's a good time. Good time. What player will we be specifically talking about for the 76ers?
Cue that Baylor Bears fight song.
Get it ready, man. Get it ready.
I will say, so here's what I would say.
He seems like the guy.
VJ, all the intel out there is VJ.
Yeah.
And while I agree that that's probably, if they stay at 3, that's the most likely guy, there's a little bit of it, and more than a little bit of it, there's a good chunk of it that I think is about maybe trying to extract value from Charlotte, right? Like, I think Charlotte has put stuff out there where they are looking more for the intangibles on top of the stuff, right? Like, they've been connected to Knipple, they've been connected to VJ, hasn't been a lot of Ace to Charlotte
or
talk.
Trey to Charlotte,
Well, there's been a little bit of Trey, not as much, but there was, I can't remember who, maybe it was Rafael Barlow.
Okay.
I'd have to go and look, but somebody recently connected them with both VJ and Knipple specifically.
And most recently in the
culture guys.
It was Malawatch, not even.
And again, he gets absolutely outstanding reviews for, culture stuff or whatever. So take it with a grain of salt, obviously, and take all this stuff with a grain of salt around draft season leading into the draft. But there's probably a little bit of the VJ building momentum that's like, maybe we can get Charlotte to move up a spot because they really want him.
Yeah.
And they can extract a little bit of value out of just move a slot down and you take somebody that you still like the same and just get a little bit of extra pick value.
Yeah. No, I've never, even when they came out with that full-on assault on trading down, I've never completely dismissed the possibility. If anything, thought they came out a little bit aggressive in trying to put that out. But it just makes sense. Like, if you have a situation where so many of these players are similar in tiers, try to get a little bit more value to hedge your bets a little bit. And there's just a lot of people right now that seem like they're intent on moving up. And Charlotte, the smoke for Charlotte really wanting VJ is there. If they are convinced you're not going to take VJ at 3, then they're not going to try to trade up. So I do think there's always posturing at this time of year. There's always, smoke screens and slop and all of that stuff. It is trying to weed through all of it.
All right. Well, maybe I should sneak in a couple of these reads here for the show as we await our mystery guest. Since Bree is the greatest, we'll do that. Quick pause. Come right back right here on the PHLY Sixers podcast. And I got to tell you about our presenting sponsor here on the show, Rothman Orthopedics. We've all been there trying to power through those summer plans and with the nagging injury that's still there, but you're stubborn and the pain is stubborn, so you don't want to get it checked out. But when rest isn't cutting it and that ice, or you simply get some ACE bandages, you know how you do that?
Oh.
The Band-Aids. You say, oh, it's going to
What
fix
bandages?
it. Yeah. That it's not going to fix it. You got to call the experts. That's why I do, and we do here as a show, Trust Rothman Orthopedics. Whether you're running on the beach, swimming your golf clubs, or lifting the little ones for a pool day, Rothman specialists are here to treat you whatever's holding you back. Their top-tier care will have you moving and enjoying every minute of summer. If pain is slowing you down this season, take the first step to get in with Rothman Orthopedics. They have 180-plus fellowship-trained physicians specializing in specific areas of the body and multitude of orthopedic services, including hip, knee, back, shoulder, spine, elbow, foot, ankle, oncology, and trauma fracture care. All of that stuff is there for you. Head on over to RothmanOrthopedics.com/PHLY and schedule your appointment today. Rothman Orthopedics, your summer, your mobility, their mission. Also, have to tell you about one more of these great people that are helping sponsor the show, and that's from Cherry Hill Kia. If you're looking for amazing deals and super low lease payments, Kia of CherryHill.com is the place to be. They're celebrating their savings month all month long on their massive selection of over 450 new Kias to choose from. They have over 40 Tellurides, over 100 Sportages, over 35 Carnivals, over 75 Celtos, and over 80 Souls there for you. I got to tell you, Kia is the hottest automotive brand in the country for a reason. 7 of their models received 2025 Car and Driver's Editor's Choice Awards. That's amazing considering there were more than 450 models tested and only 20 models industry-wide received this award. Combine that with the best warranty in the automotive business, 10 years, 100,000-mile powertrain, and 5 years, 60,000-mile bumper-to-bumper. You got to stop in today. Tell them PHLY sent you and receive a $100 restaurant gift.com gift card just for taking a test drive or completing a trade appraisal. I know people buy Kias elsewhere. I just don't know why. Drive home in your new Kia today, just minutes from all bridges, or available online 24/7 at kiaofcherryhill.com. Welcome back to the PHLY Sixers podcast. Here with you, Derek, Kyle, I'm Devon. Bree is with us, all of you in the chat, talking about Ace Bailey and the slide that is happening for the young fella.
Or not happening.
Or not happening. At least in the mock drafts, in the big boards, he seems to be sliding a little bit, Derek, that has people concerned. So with that, in the VJ part of it, where he's elevated and jumping into that spot, we follow our chat and we see what a lot of people talk about, even some personal texts or DMs or even in the Discord, I'm sure, where the conversation has always been, not another Zaire Smith, not another Jaden Springer in this case. Why is he not those guys to compare to?
Well, I think if you go and you watch how he played for the Bahamas, you can see a skill level that Zaire Smith and Jaden Springer and whatnot never had. There's been a lot of question mark over whether or not with NBA spacing he will be better. And I think he will be better. The question is how much better. And I think there are very valid concerns. Like, we have been very consistent, and VJ is not third on my board. Full disclosure, I've mentioned this before. But we have never been like, well, I think that's Victor Oladipo reborn. Like, that's never been the position of this panel, quite frankly.
Yep.
Like, there are real legitimate concerns. I think he's more of an off-ball player. I believe in a catch-and-shoot shot, attack closeouts, second side, make decent decisions, not super creative, and defend his tail off. Like, I think he is going to be a really good role player. I won't say role player because people lose their minds. I think Ace Bailey's best version is as a role player too, which I just wrote about the other day. But I think if you're talking like third option, like I said, secondary kind of creator, that kind of guy who just makes the team better, I think there's a very good chance he's going to be that. But I think people who are comparing him to like Zaire Smith just want to trash a prospect they don't like. But I also think people who are like, well, that's Victor Oladipo.
Right. That's a big projection.
That's Donovan Mitchell. Like, I think those people are a little bit unrealistic too.
All right, let's get to our mystery guest. Bree says is ready to go. All right, let's see who we have here as we check in with the mystery guest. Mystery guest. My guy.
Look who it is.
World Be Free. The 76ers ambassador, World Be Free. What up, World?
What's up, D? How's everything?
Everything is great, man. Glad that you can hang out with us, with Derek, Kyle. Of course, it's been a while, man. Haven't seen you all season. Great to catch up with you. How's your summer going?
You still look good, brother. You still look good.
Thank you, man. Well, listen, I wanted to jump right into it and just ask you this because you've been in a lot of Hall of Fames, man, and now the big one. You were nominated to be a nominee for the class for the 2025 Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame, man. What did that feel like? I know we haven't gotten everything yet, but what did that feel like to have your name tossed in there as a first-time nominee?
You know, just to have your name tossed in there, first of all, I thank God for just giving me that ability to go ahead and perform and do the things that I did on that basketball court. And, you know, to be just talked about amongst those kind of guys, you know, it's just unreal. It makes me feel like for all the things I did with basketball, it made it work for me.
Well, listen, man, all-star team, multiple 20-point scoring seasons where, you know, you had those defenders on their heels of trying to slow you down. When you talk about amongst those names, I mean, look, man, you are one of those names.
Well, thank you, D. But thing about it is, you know, I really had a good time in playing sports, and basketball was one of the things that, you know, people say that, you know, all right, you got to win championships and all these type things. I did go to the finals and all that. We lost in Portland, but at one point I can I'll never forget that. But the thing is, you know, we had an opportunity, and you know, every time I played, and they said my game was always totally different from everybody else's. But I played and made sure that the fans and everybody enjoyed themselves. I wanted to win, of course, but I wanted to make sure that, you know, when people paid their money to come out there and see somebody play, I was going to give it to them the best way I could, and that's what I did.
It feels like that attitude has been lost a little bit, world, where I know there's been a lot of advancement with all the medical and whatnot, and so these guys rest more, but it does feel a little bit like the value of I'm going to go out there every single night and put on a show for people is maybe not at the forefront the way it used to be.
Well, it's different now. Of course, you know, I mean, it's the way, I guess, technique, time, and the way things are happening with these guys' bodies, and the way they work. Even though they have more things than we had as far as taking care of our bodies, but you know, the guys that played, you know, when we played, you know, we played for the love of the game. I mean, like if you lost the game, you know, I mean, you couldn't wait to get back there and play again. You know, you know, it was just you loved the game so much. It was like you woke up with it, you slept it. You know, next to God, you know, that game was like it's what we loved.
And so to that point, you know, even right now, you all every time we see you around the arena, big smile on your face, very very positive guy, like excited to be around basketball. Was it as tough for you this season watching this team and you know, following the Sixers as it was for everybody else?
Well, I put it this way: it was tough because the fact that you know, I didn't know which suit to wear when I was playing, when these guys were playing. So, you know, I didn't know how to come to the game. If I was going to come rough, or if I'm going to come, you know, the way they're going to play. So, you know, it was the thing that these guys did. They worked hard. If injuries, you know, messed the season up, of course. But you know, I tell you the truth. You know, basketball in Philadelphia is always going to be basketball. You can see we had like a lot of G leaguers. We had a lot of guys come from other places. But you could see that everybody still was coming out to the games. It was like still sell out crowds, even though you don't know who was going to be out there, you know. And you know, you have to go ahead and respect Philadelphia fans, first of all, man, for just go ahead and saying, look, I'm going to stick with it.
Ambassador of 76ers. Ambassador of 76ers basketball, World Be Free. He just said it. That's his job. He's going to be there. And also a nominee for the class of 2025 Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame. You have something there?
Yes, sir.
I was just gonna say we're now at a time where like we're coming up right up to the draft. Obviously, you know, you went a little bit later in the draft than I think maybe you would have hoped for. What's that whole experience like with the uncertainty of coming up to this point and you know, trying to keep your composure and then using that as motivation to try to prove people wrong?
Well, I was the 23rd pick myself when I got drafted, and Darryl Dawkins was the number one pick for the 76ers. So we both came in the same year. And you know, when you're out there and you're playing basketball, your next thing, if you're playing from college, from high school to college, you know, your next thing, if you're good enough to professional sports is where you want to be. So when you get in there, no matter if you pick first round, second round, this is the way I thought about it. You know, when I got on that court, you know, you're gonna know who I was. You know, and a lot of players nowadays, you know, trying to be that same way. I guess you gotta know who you are. I don't care where you get picked at because you could be the top pick and be a flop. You could be that number 23rd pick and you can be somebody. You know what I'm saying? So you know it's how the person is and how they feel about the game.
Well, I'm going to get you out of here so you can get on with your day. We appreciate your time. But I did want to ask you this. When you watch today's game and the way that you scored the basketball, how many points would you average in today's brand of NBA basketball?
The answer's a lot.
Yeah, that would be in the short rim. It would be a lot. You know, you can't touch nobody. You can't. But I tell you the truth. On my way out here, I do love the way the game has been played in the playoffs. They've been letting them get physical, and that's the kind of game that we played. And I do love that. You can see some guys are getting hit, and they're looking at the referees, and the referees are just turning their head and running up court. So, you know, if you don't get back, you're going to be 5-on-4 arguing with the referees because they're not calling it.
Right.
They're playing. They're letting you play. You know what I mean? And that game, I love that kind of game. So, you know, right now, I see it as being fun. It's a series now with Indiana. They're playing tough. But Oklahoma, OKC is tough, but they let them play, and I love that game. I love to see the physical contact in the game, as opposed to coming in there and just letting it. If you can't touch nobody, it's a foul. You know, that puts me to sleep.
Yeah.
I do have one other quick one. You've had a lot of fantastic nicknames. I'm going to throw out All World because you've sort of adopted that. But what was your favorite nickname that you had or that was given to you?
They used to call me Kangaroo, but Billy Cunningham had that name.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So, and he was older, so he deserved it better than I did. But so they used to call me that Kangaroo and all that stuff. But you know.
Well, world certainly fits, man. World fits, and that's who you are. And again, a first-time Naismith Hall of Fame nominee. We wish you good luck with that. And next time we see you, of course, we get some dress tips from you as we go along.
We could use it.
I don't think I can pull that off.
Well, you know, we had those conversations where we get into that.
I got something. I always got something new. You know that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? Next time we need to do something where we got to get ready with World for a game. That's what we need to do. We got to get ready with World for a game. World, thanks so much, man. Good luck again with the Hall of Fame, and we'll catch up with you soon. Thanks, man.
Thanks, World.
You guys, take care now.
Appreciate it. Ambassador of Basketball, World Be Free.
What a
hanging
guy.
out with us. The best.
The best guy.
The best. The absolute best.
Like I have never. He's at basically every game, right?
Yeah.
I've never seen him without a big old smile on
Yes.
his face, just loving life. So.
Yeah, he's absolutely best.
Something that Derek and I could learn from, probably.
We have, if you're in our Discord, there are like constant pictures of Kyle and I having RBF on the sideline. It's like a running
Not
thing.
something you'd accuse World of. So
the guy can flat out score the basketball.
Oh yeah.
Yes, he could.
Even still, to this day, he would.
He probably
put
could.
him on that Papa Shot machine out there. See what kind of numbers
He takes some step
puts up.
backs and fire it up, and it's still good. But yeah, so let's jump back into the conversation. That was great, Bree. Great job, of course, from getting us Justin Edwards and World Be Free. We really appreciate that. Hope you all enjoyed the conversations. Keeping it loose with them, of course, and having these fun conversations with these 76ers people as we get ready for the NBA draft. There was a trade, Kyle, that happened before we came on the air, where Shams broke the story of the Indiana Pacers trading out of pick number 23 and doing so with the New Orleans Pelicans. So the Pelicans now have 7 and 23. And that immediately had me saying to Kyle, while Derek was walking around doing something, oh, 76ers, we've heard them linked to the Pelicans before with Herb Jones, the 7. maybe a future pick, but maybe
Don't
this
like it.
could be something there where trade up for maybe not the
So-
Sixers, but somewhere in there.
It was my first instinct, like, hey, yeah, maybe they trade 7 and 23 and something else to move up, and that's something that maybe they're looking to do. That range of the draft at this point is
Still on that.
Well, 7 is farther down than I want to trade,
Yeah.
and 23 isn't good enough that I have a ton of interest. Unless you're gonna like blow me away with like 7, 23, and maybe like Herb, then we can start talking. But like that's I'm not.
But it was always even the 6 and 18 with Washington, where we talked about Sam Vecini having that as a mock last week. That was one that was okay.
6
right
is
there.
a little easier, I think, to wrap
Yeah.
your, because trading to 7 relies on somebody in the top 6 making a pick of a guy that I don't think fits on the Sixers, right?
Yeah.
Somebody in the top 6 has to take Fears or Malawach or I don't know, Essengay,
Yeah.
like somebody that I'm not really looking at as a Sixers prospect, so that at 7 you could slide. But yeah, so I would imagine it's part of why New Orleans is doing this, but also on the 23rd pick side of things, that range of the draft now is like, there's some interesting guys there. But I mean, we're talking about a range that now someone like Kalkbrenner, who we initially talked about as, hey, that's a guy at
35,
35.
yeah.
He could go at 22,
Even
23.
Walter Clayton has been mocked at 20.
Right.
More
So
recently.
a lot of guys have been really pushed up the board, and I don't know that I'm as interested in them as, hey, I'm going to make this guy a featured part of my trade down. Like, I don't know that I feel that strongly.
It's one of those where maybe on draft night, if somebody I like slides, then we can revisit the conversation. But right now, yeah, it's just 23 is not enough for me to trade all the way down to 7.
Yeah. But that was one that popped up. Kyle was like, draft trade. And he was like, yeah, man, it's happening. The Kevin Durant stuff keeps going on where that's all over the place where he might end up.
Mm-hmm.
And so how that might impact the draft, where that pick might be going to Houston, the Houston pick, or would that be a part of it, where maybe one of these other teams like Miami, that's a 20th overall pick, get involved in there somewhere. But this stuff is just all over the place right now with how things are currently going with it. And we're 8 days away, man. We still have 7 days. So things change very quickly. You mentioned how a friend to the show, Jake Fisher, has some intel of how things could potentially go, where the Sixers may take things up to the last minute and fielding some of those trade calls, or it might actually be the guy that, we've been talking about a lot here lately, VJ Edgecombe, or someone else in that case.
Yeah. So Washington is now increasingly being mentioned as they could be a trade up team, and they could trade up as high as 3. I suspect they're an Ace Bailey team, just because I don't think it makes if you're saying I have to get up into that range, is there anybody else that
Not
really
Trey
makes
Johnson,
sense as
not
a
VJ. Nah.
I don't know. Maybe it
VJ.
could be someone else. I was sort of treating Washington as if they're going to take a swing at 6, I would have thrown them, and then maybe they take Essengay, right? Like they just take a huge swing, and that has been in their player profile, right? Like the long, toolsy, athletic guy, but they just don't have a primary initiator right now, and so if you just only collect those guys, I don't know how you build a basketball team that way. But Washington increasingly a spot to monitor, and for the reasons we laid out, that 7 is probably a little too far. I think 6 makes some sense if you just say, if 3 to 6 is a tier and you view it that way, I'll just take whoever falls from that tier. Like I tend to believe I'd rather stay in the top 5 and kind of have my pick, but it depends on the offer.
All right, real fast before we pose a question back to Kyle and Derek on that one. We got some overtime here, folks, on the PHLY Sixers podcast presented by Rothman Orthopedics. We're head on over to allphly.com to watch the rest of the show. And we thank everybody on the television side, on the FAST channel side. And we'll be back with you all tomorrow, Wednesday, regular start time, 3 p.m. here at allphly.com in general, but also on the TV side for you to catch our show. Tomorrow's actually the all-day
I will not be talking Sixers tomorrow, and neither will you.
Neither will
so.
I. I think Derek's the only one that's going to be talking Sixers unless we get to toss some Sixers questions. But thanks for everybody hanging out on the television side. Welcome over at allphly.com.
By the way, we do have to tell you about something else, too. There's a Fanatics Fest coming up at the Javits Center, June 20th through the 22nd. Be 3 days of nonstop sports, culture, collectibles, lots of athletes, creators, celebrities. You guys know a lot of the big Philly names: Cooper DeJean, Brian Dawkins, Nick Foles, Allen Iverson, Dawn Staley, another Philly legend.
Dawn.
Pete Davidson is in the ad read, which is crazy. How does Pete Davidson sneak his way into that group of people?
I know he got lumped
specifically?
in like the Eagles run.
He
lumped
popped
in.
up. He was at a Sixers game
I know
this
he was
year,
at a
so
Sixers game,
maybe that's a.
Yeah,
I don't know.
But he was lumped in with the Eagles too somehow.
In any case,
I don't know.
maybe you
It's
are
Pete
more of a
Davidson.
Pete Davidson guy or girl than a Dawn Staley, Cooper DeJean guy or girl. So who knows? Whoever you want to see, there'll be tons of people there. You can get a selfie with legends, get merch, fantasy draft, card drop, sneaker heat, live podcasts,
Sneakers.
every sport that you can imagine, even WWE. I'm not a wrestling guy. Maybe you are. Fanatics Fest will have all of it at the Javits Center. Fanatics Fest NYC, sports, culture, collectibles, all in one place. Get your tickets now at fanaticsfest.com. And yeah, let me just remind everyone
Tomorrow.
one more time, 12-hour stream tomorrow. The PHLY, is it Streamathon, Subathon? What are we calling it, gentlemen?
Streamathon.
Thank you, Bree, for getting me straight on that. So it'll be 12 straight hours. We're flip-flopping around shows tomorrow. I believe I'll be on earlier in the day with some of the other writers. I'm also going to be on with Devon and some others talking Eagles at some point. Derek, I think, will still be
I've got a Philly show,
basketball chair.
a draft panel show, and a Sixers show.
There you
Busy
go.
day.
So lots of stuff going
I think I'm
on
even
tomorrow.
producing a show.
There are also shows
Great
without
work.
us. So if you're sick of hearing us talk, I wouldn't blame you, quite frankly. But it's all streaming on our YouTube channel. Best way to support us for this streamathon, hit the subscribe button. It helps us create all this content, get it out to people, help make this thing a sustainable place for us to talk Philly sports with you guys. And by the way, as Devon brought up, we're also trying to raise money this week for Big Brothers and Big Sisters. So if you can help be a part of that, there are no super chats this week. We're fundraising. It's a big part of this push that we're doing. So mark your calendar tomorrow, Wednesday, June 18th. PHLY Streamathon. Subscribe now.
Make sure you check in and ask Kyle off of the Washington chat that he brought up. Just going back to your point last week where you brought up Koulibaly from Washington as, would you have interest in something like that versus 6 and 18? You take the player back plus 6. Would that still be something that you might be interested in? Of course, same
Call
for
it in
you.
right now. Do it.
Do
Which
it?
one?
Koulibaly in 6?
Oh, I would do that. Yeah.
You too?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, especially because like my third guy is Trey, and it's sounding more and more like there's a chance he could be there at 6. Now, granted, knowing my world, it's Ace who falls at 6, and then, but still, like Ace at 6, and you get a player back, I can live with a lot better than.
And Koulibaly was a lottery pick also, and he's turned out to
I don't
be-
think he's on the table as far as
No,
I've heard, but
it was
if
just-
he were available, yeah. So
that's the more interest instead of the 18 piece where you include the player.
right. And because Derek and I have been on the Ace skepticism corner, there are a lot of people who come onto the show and act like we've put pie in the sky expectations on VJ, when our assertion has been more like these guys are pretty close and I don't know, and trading down to pick up extra stuff. So if 3 to 6 is a tier, I would probably even expand that tier a little bit. And you say, I'll get somebody from that and I'll get a guy who's already shown he can be an NBA player, who's a young, athletic, interesting talent. Sign on the dotted line immediately. I don't like any of these guys enough to sit at 3 and turn that trade down.
Yeah.
I just don't think that'll be available. I think 6 and 18 could be on the table, maybe. But that one I have less interest in because unless somebody like Cedric Howard or one of our guys falls to 18.
What about like
That's
Neat
it.
Clifford? Yeah, I know you like him.
I like him, but again, if you draft Trey Johnson or you draft
And you add
Knipple,
Neek in there,
and then
too.
you draft Neek
Yeah.
Clifford, it's like the problem that everyone's talking about and the reason they don't want to take VJ Trey, whoever it might be that's not named Ace, you're just compounding that, right? It's another guy fighting for the same type of minutes and the same type of role. So if you can get a Cedric Coward there, like a real wing, I would do that.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's going to
unknown.
last that long.
I actually like Nick a lot, but yeah, there's a point where like, all right, you've got 6'5" and under guards. Like there's only so many you can actually reasonably be roster and give minutes to.
To that point, in a world where they drafted Ace and they got like pick 18,
Yeah.
I would 100% be in on Neek Clifford, because I think then that's a guy who ties some things together as a depth piece.
I do just want to go back to Gavoni a little bit, because like Kyle has said, there are a lot of people, including when we had Sam on, like there was a very prominent person who's constantly in our mentions saying, well, get Gavoni on. He's, he will give a good perspective on Ace. We'll see.
That might happen.
But, Gavoni is, and look, I have a lot of personal experience with Gavoni. I worked with him for 8 years. Like I've been on scouting trips with him. I've gone to Portsmouth. I've gone to EYBL. I've gone to Hoop Summit. Like I've seen the way he works and takes notes and talks to people. There is legitimately nobody on the externally facing side that is more plugged in than Gavoni. Even Vicini, like Vicini was going over some of the people he was talking to later in the day, exceptionally plugged in. I know Gavoni a little bit better because I worked more directly with him. These are two of the most connected guys, probably the two most connected guys in the draft sphere that are, like I said, externally facing. So for them to tell you, relay some of these concerns that not they have per se, because Jonathan is still a very big Ace guy and said he would take him 3. When they're relaying the concerns that teams are expressing, it is a serious conversation. And it has always been a serious conversation. And that's all Kyle and I have tried to do. But, I think you really have to look at it and say anything is on the table. It could be Ace at 3. It could be VJ at 3. It could be a trade down. It could be a trade up. There is almost nothing that would completely, except for maybe trading up to 1. Outside of that, there is nothing that would completely stun me. I think you do have to look at it and just be open to other possibilities. And it's going to be a wild week. Like there's a lot still on the table.
I actually have a question for the two of you, building off of that. What do you guys make of the reporting from Gavoni that Ace initially refused to work out for the Sixers? Like, do we buy it? 2,
well,
how do we view that as in terms of the?
I buy it because I trust Gavoni.
Yeah.
My read on it, and be clear, this is tea leaf reading. My guess would be, they probably looked at it and said, like, I don't know if I want to go to Philly, be a 4th, 5th option, blah, blah, blah. Then they probably got some feedback where like, well, maybe my floor is not as strong as I thought it was. Maybe I could actually slip a little farther, let me reevaluate it, come in, have a meeting, have a sit down, have a workout with the team at the 3rd pick, and expand my thought process.
So all that makes sense. And if that is, again, tea leaf reading, that is that's the wrong idea and the wrong approach to have it from his representation and then the player, because this is something that we've talked about with him. Could he come in here and accept that role? Because he will be the 4th, 5th option on this basketball team because of, again, the situation that he's coming into is a team that expects to get back into the playoffs. And there's a pecking order where you have 3 former All-Stars and you have a player like McCain and Grimes that can also score the basketball. And he's going to have
Justin
to...
Edwards, don't
You're right. And Kelly Oubre.
Don't ignore our guest.
If Kelly was listening, he'd probably be like, wait a minute, where am I in this? But there's a pecking order. And if that was the thinking, then I understand it as a player that wants to come in and get the basketball.
Again, we've said that 100 times. He's a confident and
But be confident in
kid.
your role, because you being confident in your role is going to make you a better player on a team like this. And you'll get some experience maybe in the postseason, play some minutes maybe, and you're going to have some real competition about getting on the floor from those other players that are out there. And then you have the tutoring that could be there, like Sam Vicini talked about with Paul George.
That he was really bullish on that Ace would listen to
Paul George
because he looks up to him so much.
Yeah, where we've talked about, and you mentioned, could there be some real buzz with Washington actually liking Ace? Whether you like what Derek and Kyle have said, we've all agreed that we do not want to see him in Washington because of the environment where that guy needs to be in a better spot.
Although Marcus Smart being there, he might talk some sense into him.
Although they've been
Marcus
talking
Smart
about
is a
him.
wild man.
They've been talking about him maybe
in a
being
good way.
on the move, though.
Yeah.
So he may not even be there to do that job. You want him next to Jordan Poole saying, go ahead, fire away. And
I will say, as soon as Kuzma got out of there, Jordan Poole looked a lot more like a steady vet presence. So
There's definitely like a bozo limit, and like after a certain point, it just becomes too much. And removing one, like, yeah, I think it helped him.
Yeah. So look, he would be a feature later, not sooner, and that might, that's not the right place at this time.
but it's why
Not the right thought
the
process.
draft is, at least for us, when I'm not getting screamed at all the time, the draft is really fun to talk
Are
about.
you talking about by Vince or the comment section?
Both, maybe. It's fun to talk about because you learn a lot about people's values, right? Or like how their schools of thought, right? There are some people who just look at a highlight tape and say either that guy has it or he doesn't. And so that gets pinned on ace people, right? There are also people who look at a VJ highlight tape and say, this is all dunks in transition, right? Like, where is this guy breaking people down off the dribble? And I don't like that actually, even if it's from a highlight reel, it does match up with some of the concerns, right? That VJ's left hand is pretty weak and his pickup point on his drives. Like somebody described it as, and I thought this was really smart. I wish I could remember who did this. Said that VJ has a third step problem, that the first step is great. Second step is great. But his third step, he doesn't make because he's picking the ball up and he's trying to take off from too far. And that's where he gets into trouble. And I think that's a fair thing to think about. But what I have said, at least on my school of thought, the longer I've covered the league, talked to people who go through the real battery of tests, the intel on these guys behind the scenes, I weigh way more heavily than I used to. Because when I ignored it, a lot of people like to bring up, oh, you were low on Jason Tatum. Part of what I ignored with Jason Tatum that I shouldn't have was his background intel was really good. And while Markelle Fultz's wasn't bad, it also wasn't great either. There was some stuff like, it ended up playing out in a really bad way for him. Not as a person, just anyway, we'll leave that for another day. Ignore this stuff at your own peril, right? It doesn't always play the decisive role. But ultimately, when you draft these kids, especially top 3, top 5, top 10, you are betting on them as people just as much as you are as players. And that plays out over, 5 to 10 years if these guys are here for a while. It is an inexact science, and you want all these kids to succeed, but some of them are just not going to make it. So if you have question marks and you don't answer them, these are the stories that are going to pop up during the pre-draft process.
Nice to see some Trey Johnson love there in the chat on the back end.
This is what kills me about people who are like, well, if you're criticizing Ace, what about VJ? VJ's not my guy at 3. Why are we on this every time? Why do I have to defend VJ every time I don't like Ace? He might still be my guy at
3, but I don't know. We'll see.
Lamar Williams
Big
says,
boards next week, day before the draft.
Haven't heard a bad word about Trey. You have not. It's been some positive things.
Well, we've talked a lot about his defense.
Well, I'm just talking more about
intel off court has been super strong.
Been really good.
But like if the defense graduated above for who for what. But outside of that, the intel is really strong.
And that's more, again, postseason where there were a lot of questions why you may have had him down in your big board. But, a lot of good stuff coming out about Trey Johnson, where he is
very serious about the pre-draft process and his desire to be great. Dedicated almost entirely to basketball. Like Trey has a lot of good reviews coming out about him. So he's an example of the opposite. He has helped himself with how he has handled the pre-draft process for sure.
Absolutely. All right, folks, we're going to get ready to get out of here and get to our, of course, roll call and say goodbye to everybody as we get ready for our streamathon tomorrow. It's 12 hours here on the network, and we hope to see everybody hanging out with us for hopefully a decent amount of time. But before we do step away, I want to say one last time, not only is our show presented by Rothman Orthopedics, but also to let you know during our Spirit Week, we're teaming up with Big Brothers Big Sisters of America and an incredible group creating life-changing mentorships for kids across the country. We've set a goal for $10,000 for the week, and we love to smash that right through that. And if you can do so by donating, well, we're not doing our normal.
And if you don't donate, Kyle's going to have to make up the difference. So get on that donation.
You can donate using the link in the video or
I'm not the one with computer science money over there, Bodner.
And if you want to do that by making a big impact, you can also become a big by visiting bbbs.org/AllCity. Again, bbbs.org/AllCity. All
Get
right,
those donations up, gang.
get the donations. Coming to
One
America,
last thing
baby.
before the
Coming
roll
to
call.
America. It's
If
the
we were
best
to add,
donation.
hey, things we ignored in the pre-draft that now we revise, circle back to Jonathan Gavoni. He took a very public stance on Ben Simmons leading into that draft about the concerns about how he approached the game, his tentativeness in big moments.
Sure did.
And for a while, those concerns didn't manifest in the most meaningful way, right? But
they showed
those
themselves
signs were
later.
there. They were papered over for a little while, and Ben was a productive player. There's only so long you can hide if you have fatal flaws in the NBA. So another lesson to take with you into the future.
Yes, sir.
Let's get to the roll call.
Roll call. It's the world famous right here.
Thank you to our 2 esteemed guests today. Is that the first 2 guest show?
Yeah, that was fantastic.
Justin Edwards and World Be Free. Thank you to both of those gentlemen for their time. Obviously, hoping for the best for Justin next season,
Yes.
year 2. See how high he can climb, and World's a legend. So
Hall of Fame.
happy to
Bring him in, Naismith
Happy
Memorial.
to talk to both of those fine gentlemen today. Also happy to see so many of you in here today hanging out with us. Bootzilla,
Boots.
Mellow 3-Point,
Mellow, my man.
Eugene Ross, Hedfa. You better love somebody.
Love somebody. Love somebody.
Jess with the Purple Heart. My
She's got
girl
the purple
Winona.
heart, Derek. Purple heart.
Vincent.
Remember that random time she had like a
The blue heart.
yeah.
Yeah, went
was
back
wrong.
on
I
it.
think she
World
was
was
mad
off.
at the
Money
Sixers.
Marr,
Yeah, it was off.
Mary Overfield, Finney Chase,
Mary.
Brian Knight, B Pump, who's in
Pump.
shambles.
He's frustrated.
B Pump. He's on the propaganda campaign in the chat today.
Saying
He's
talking
going crazy.
points. Come on,
Ryan
Pump.
Brooks is in here. What's up to Ryan?
What up, Ryan?
Finney Chase, Chris, Ish. What's up to Ish?
What up, Ish?
Duck
Good to see
Holiday.
Ish in there.
Prophet One, Igavini.
Hi, Gavini. Good to see you.
Who else? Lost Sleep TV, RC Thompson 96, Chris B. We had Code Ran in here from the Discord today. What up?
What up, Code Ran?
Lamar Williams, the Great Bogus, who, by the way, the Great Bogus is
Yeah,
back,
yeah.
number 1.
Yep.
Great Bogus did donate to Big Brothers and Big Sisters, so thank you
so much.
to the Great Bogus. Would love to see some more donations from people on the way out.
Send those donations.
Darkness!
Turn the lights down for the Indy and Pacers. Maybe. I don't know.
Not looking good. Looking pretty spooky.
Yeah, I don't know.
Rancho Deluxe, Lee Nguyen.
Rancho. That made me think of. Never mind. I'll tell you off the air.
Yeah, we'll leave that alone
Next
for now
Friday.
because I don't
Next
know where
Friday.
your head is at. Joaquin from Cherry Hill, Doug Craig.
I trust Devon's filter though. Like,
Yeah. That's why I said next Friday.
Thank you to everybody
The
who was
movie.
in here today. I think I saw Densley was in here. I think I
Yes.
saw
Rich P.
Rich P.
Yes.
And another reminder, Boozy Mutt next Wednesday for the
Wednesday.
draft, our
Boozy
draft
Mutt.
event.
Love it. Oh, look at that.
Draft party
We're
presented
ready.
by Rothman and Truemark. We will be there.
We are ready. Can I also,
We will be
can I
there.
also add, if you missed any of our interviews with the people, Justin Edwards, World Be Free today. Don't forget to go back and check out, of course, Steve Peichel, head coach of Rutgers.
Oh, yeah.
Sam Vicini, Scott Drew
from Baylor.
and Seth Greenberg. We've had
From
all of
ESPN.
these guests on there. Go check them out. If some others that you know like those guests, make sure you send them to our YouTube page to catch up on those videos and check them out. Good conversations.
Thank you, everybody, for being here. Please hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you get notifications each and every time we go live. And hit that thumbs up button to say thank you to super producer Bree, holding it down for nearly an hour and 20 minutes.
Look
Two
at those
guests,
guests.
all kinds of graphics, all kinds of things going on. Bree's the best, so give her some damn love. We'll be back tomorrow, but we'll be on different shows except for Derek. So, guys, take care. Tune in for the PHLY Streamathon tomorrow. Have some fun. 12 straight hours of nonsense and sports. Can't wait. See you then.
See ya.
We all silly like the mayor.